You ever have one of those mornings where you step outside just hoping for a little peace and the world decides, nope, not today, buddy? Yeah, that was me, freezing November air stinging my lungs on a mountaintop in Appalachia, 3 years into a life I thought was finally quiet. I bought this chunk of wilderness, 320 acres of it, trying to outrun the ghost of being a special forces marksman. Thought I'd found myself a slice of peace. Turns out peace is a slippery thing. So picture this dawn breaking over the valley fog, curling up from the trees like it's alive, and me standing on the cabin deck with a mug of coffee staring at a security feed on my tablet. 12 trail cameras guarding my land, all green except for one. Camera 7 blinking red. I'd never lost a signal out here. Not once in 3 years. Let me back up a sec. See, I didn't buy this place for the land. I bought it for the distance from people, from memory, from those nights where you wake up at 3 a.m., reaching for a rifle that isn't there. My neighbors are black bears and barred owls. I paid for the isolation with every penny I had. But when that camera went dark, something felt off, and not in a raccoon climbed the tree kind of way. No, this was precise, like somebody who knew what they were doing, who understood surveillance, who moved through the woods without leaving a trace. Or so they thought. I packed up field jacket, GPS, hunting rifle, thermal binoculars. 20 years in the military, some habits just don't die. Hiked 90 minutes up an old logging trail, silent as a ghost. Not because I was scared, but because in the mountains quiet shows you things noise hides. Found fresh tire tracks, wide and deep off-roaders. Boot prints, too. 3 different sets. No garbage, no cigarette butts, nothing casual about it. When I reached the white oak where camera 7 used to be, all that was left was the bracket and fresh gouges in the bark socket wrench marks. They'd come prepared, worked quick left, nothing behind except their footprints and a sense of professionalism I hadn't seen since Afghanistan. Whoever they were, they knew what they were doing. The tracks led me over the property line and onto state land. Legally, I wasn't pursuing anyone, just tracking a story written in disturbed leaves and broken twigs. That's when the smell hit me. Decomposition mixed with something chemical sharp enough to stick in your nose. In a small clearing, sun slicing through the trees, I found a single feather white with a dark tip. Bald eagle. Immature. Protected by federal law, 5 years and $100,000 for killing one. Now, this wasn't some teenager shooting at critters with dad's shotgun. This was harvesting. These folks were organized, and they'd removed my camera because they knew I was watching. That realization landed in my gut like ice water. Then I heard a distant engine out past the state land. I marked the location on my GPS, but by the time I focused, the sound was gone. Standing there in the quiet, every instinct I'd tried to smother came back. Threat assessments, resources, courses of action. I could have just called the state wildlife office, filed a report, let the authorities sort it out. But that professionalism, it made me hesitate. These weren't amateurs. They had contingency plans. If I moved too fast, they'd vanish. Start up again somewhere else where nobody would notice until it was too late. That walk back home took 2 hours, and I had a lot to think about. See, I came out here trying to escape this exact kind of calculation. But after 3 years, the mountains had given me something I never expected, a reason to care about something bigger than myself. Watching black bears raise cubs, hearing deer move through fresh snow owls calling across the dusk. 100 years ago, this forest was logged to death. I'd watched it start to heal, and I'd be damned if I'd let somebody steal that for a quick buck. That night, I uploaded photos to my laptop, tire tracks, boot prints, bloodstains, the eagle feather. Sat there staring at evidence of a crime that ran deeper than trespassing. I unpacked 3 brand new trail cameras, spent half the night figuring out how to hide them better. The next morning, before the frost even melted, I was up trees 15 feet high, hiding cameras inside hollowed logs and prepping battery packs to last 6 weeks. My new grid watched not the old trails, but the routes people used if they wanted to go unseen. Back at the cabin, I put together my field kit, binoculars, drone water, days of food. Left the hunting rifle behind this time. This was observation, not engagement, and I needed to keep my head straight. Once you start thinking like a combatant, you lose your objectivity. That's how people get hurt. I spent hours in the woods blending in, tracking fresh tire marks that hadn't been there last week. Found a corridor vehicles coming in regular, the forest shifting. Less wildlife. More signs of people. Then I smelled it, wood smoke, diesel, blood chemicals. I took the high ground, found a spot behind Mountain Laurel, and spied down into a hidden depression. 3 canvas tents, pickup trucks under camo netting, portable generator. But the kicker, a folding table covered in tools, storage bins, and the kind of processing setup you see in crime documentaries. These folks weren't hunting for food, they were harvesting for parts, bear bile, deer organs, eagle feathers, you name it. The black market in wildlife is worth millions, and I was staring straight at a professional operation. Saw two men, one older, big gray beard, scar on his forearm, the other younger, Slavic face tattoo on his neck, camouflage sidearms, talking English with an accent. They were organizing shipments. 12 sets, minimum buyer wants bear and deer. Shipment goes out Thursday. The younger one said, "We pulled 6 cameras last week. That guy on the ridge won't know what's up till we're gone." That right there told me everything. This wasn't a local job. It was an international network with quotas and buyers and probably a boss sitting in a penthouse never dirtying her hands. I set my drone on a programmed flight path, found a second clearing with a refrigerated unit and crates marked in Chinese. Tracked their vehicle routes right to a paved Forest Service road perfect for moving illegal cargo. By sundown, I had more than enough for a case file, photos, GPS data, video. But here's the rub call: the game warden and these folks disappear. The real problem moves somewhere else, maybe to land nobody's watching, and the killing keeps going. I knew what I had to do, get the whole network top to bottom. I called Bryn Ashford, an old contact from a veterans group, ex-FBI, specialized in wildlife trafficking. Emailed her, laid out what I'd found. She replied, "Call me. Use signals." So I did. Told her the story, missing cameras, camps, processing, everything. She listened, no interruptions, then told me flat out, "This isn't poaching. It's organized crime, probably tied to international markets. But to build a federal case, we need proof of interstate transport conspiracy money trails." We had an informal agreement I'd keep watching, documenting, while she reached out to the right folks. For the next 3 days, I expanded my surveillance, even planted a GPS tracker on one of their pickups. Followed the route north to a defunct timber company, Cascade Timber Solutions, a Delaware shell company that owned 200 acres and a prefab building with generators, freezers, and trucks with mismatched plates. This wasn't temporary. This was infrastructure. Watched their operation workers in shifts vacuum sealing packages, a commercial box truck headed for Baltimore. I tagged it with a tracker, followed at a safe distance, watched as it backed into a warehouse marked Premium Imports and Exports. 2 hours later, my tracker ended up in a dumpster. Someone found it. That's when I knew these were pros. Started digging into public records, followed the money through shell companies, tax liens paid off from a Cayman account, a lawsuit in King County that exposed the account holder, Nadia Orlova, Russian national, living large in Seattle. Money lawyers, layers of protection. But all that secrecy can't hide everything if you know where to look. I took everything to Charleston, met Bryn and a fish and wildlife agent named Morrison. 40 minutes of photos, video evidence, enough to open a federal RICO case if they could tie it all together. Morrison told me, "We'll need months. We need to move all at once, get the whole network, or they'll vanish." But every day they waited meant more animals lost. So I pushed harder, showed them my financial trail, the paper trail linking everything to Nadia Orlova. Morrison's eyes lit up. "You did this in 4 days." Yeah, I told him, and I had help from the internet. Suddenly we had a target. After that, my role shifted from citizen to confidential informant. Surveillance ramped up on me, dark sedans on my road, professional teams sweeping the camps for bugs. They tried to rattle me, offered me 20 grand to disappear, even sent a team of armed men to my cabin one night. They came in, forced tactical discipline, forced my door. But I was ready. Non-lethal rounds, smoke grenades, everything documented on camera. They retreated, left evidence everywhere. That was the final straw. Morrison needed to get warrants. Within 24 hours, federal agents hit every site, camps, processing facility, warehouse, and 3 luxury homes. Arrested everyone, seized millions in assets, and shut down a criminal network running across 7 states and 3 countries. Nadia Orlova herself got 22 years in federal prison, $5 million in fines, forfeited everything. Afterward, I stood on my deck cabin, repaired, watching deer and eagles return to a forest, healing faster than I thought possible. Bryn, visited coffee in hand, told me I'd done something remarkable. Most folks would have called it in, hoped for the best. You built the case, survived the danger, saw it through. That takes commitment. You know, I learned something from all this. Isolation isn't peace. Retreating from the world doesn't heal you. It's engagement that brings meaning, even when it's messy or dangerous or costs you sleep. Sometimes responsibility finds you whether you want it or not. 6 months later, Fish and Wildlife called me up, new case in Montana, same pattern. Did I want in? I didn't hesitate. Isolation had never been the answer. Justice isn't revenge, it's restoration. It's making sure what was damaged gets a shot at healing. And that's what I've become, a defender, not just of my own land, but of the wild places that don't have voices of their own. So let me ask you, if you saw something like this, would you have stood up? Would you have faced down an armed network to do what's right, knowing it would turn your life upside down? Sometimes the hardest fight isn't with your fists, it's with your conscience. If you've got thoughts on justice, on standing your ground, or if you've ever faced something like this, drop your story below. Because here's the truth. Justice belongs to those who are willing to stand up, document the truth, and refuse to back down no matter the cost.